Hi, everybody. I'm Huey Lewis, and you're watching my 80s Backtrax Ask Anything Chat. Our new album is called Weather, and I want to thank Kid Kelly for inviting me on to kick off this new feature for the show. Okay, the first question is from Karen from Spencer, West Virginia. And Karen wants to know, what song do I enjoy performing the most and the least for my fans? Interesting. Well, I certainly like Power of Love because it's one of our biggest hits and the fans really enjoy it. But I'm going to tell you, Karen, actually, the song I most enjoy performing are always the new ones because, you know, we're always working on our new material. So the newest thing and the new songs from our album Weather are probably some of our most favorite songs. So I'm going to say the new ones are the most fun to perform. And the least song, I'm going to say, interestingly, is the national anthem. Even though it's really fun to do because we get great seats and you get to see a lot, you know, at the World Series or the National Football League, you get great seats and get to watch the game. The song itself is problematic. It's real rangy and it's not a great song, honestly. So we do an a cappella version. It's difficult. So it's kind of difficult, but the good news is it only lasts 2 minutes and we get to watch the game. Thanks, Karen. Brett from Maitland, Florida wants to know, who were my musical influences starting out and who are my musical influences today? Good question, Brett. Well, starting out, I was pretty much of a rhythm and blues snob. I only listened to R&B music and blues and harmonica music mainly. My early influences were Muddy Waters and Sonny Boy Williamson and Little Walter, finally Ray Charles, and then Johnny Taylor and all R&B stuff. But when I joined my first college band, we had to play songs that were, you know, on the hit parade. And so I learned a lot of other songs, and I realized that although I preferred listening to certain types of songs, all music was fun to play. And so at that point I became, I lost my snobbery, if you will, and I became a fan of all kinds of music. And today I really believe, like Duke Ellington said, there's only two kinds of music, good and bad. Dave from Buffalo, New York, says he saw an interview with Lenny Williams and they talked about Fantasy Records and the Creedence Clearwater days. And he knows that I recorded there and wants to know, what was life like back then? Well, you know, those were heady times. We had a lot of, we were, you know, making records and hitting the charts, and we worked a lot at Fantasy Records and we saw a lot of people in and out there. It was quite a hubbub of activity, and, you know, one of the 2 or 3 major studios in San Francisco. So Journey make their records there, and Gwen Stefani was working there, and all kinds of people. So it was really quite a center in those days. But good question, Dave. Nancy from Vancouver, BC says that when the Heart of Rock and Roll came out, they heard a Canadian version where Canadian cities were mentioned on the ride out, and she wanted to know, are there any obscure cities that you've heard remixes of that I had to record? Well, that's actually a funny story, Nancy, because, you know, when the record came out as a single, the record label wanted me to, put other cities in there so they could use them on their local stations. So I went back in to record a bunch of cities, and as you might suspect, there was a big list of towns, and I just sort of shouted the towns, and they fitted them onto the record. And then we did Canada, and when we did Canada, we did Toronto, and we did Vancouver, and we did Edmonton, and we finally got to Halifax. And I thought, Halifax? Now, how can the Heart of Rock and Roll be in Halifax? So I drew the line right there. I said, I just can't, I can't sing Halifax. I mean, it just doesn't work. And the irony of that is that the very next tour, we started in Canada. In fact, we rehearsed in Newfoundland and for 3 days and started our world tour there in Canada. And we played Halifax. We had a day off, and I went down to the local club, and there was a fantastic rhythm and blues band right there in Halifax. So Halifax really is quite a good rock and roll and music town, and I should have shouted Halifax. But I have heard several of those, and I must have done 20, 25 cities. So they're out there somewhere. Good question, Nancy. Thanks. Alexa from Columbus, Ohio wants to know, how is everyone in the news, and do I have nicknames for them? Interesting question. Some I do, some I don't. but everybody's just fine. We stay in touch pretty much, not as consistently as we used to, but we all stay in touch, and everybody's fine. Yeah, there are nicknames. I wonder if I can tell you them. Yeah, I mean, Billy is Bowl. Yeah, Chris Hayes was always the kid, but now the kid grew up. So yeah, there's other nicknames. My favorite nickname was our production manager. He was a very serious guy, a wonderful production manager for years. Terry Persons, he retired now, but he was our sort of a production leader, and he was very serious about his job. Never smiled, and I nicknamed him Smiley, and it's really kind of one of my most creative things. I'm very proud of it. So thanks for the question. Bella from New Orleans, Louisiana wants to know, what is the best advice I ever got from a music lyric? Wow, that's interesting. I mean, I'd have to think for a while on that. I'll tell you what, I'm going to say Todd Rundgren's song, Love is the Answer. That song is one of my favorite songs, and it's gorgeous, and I think it pretty much sums everything up for me. So let's go with that one. Thanks very much. Okay, everybody, this is Huey Lewis again saying thanks to everybody for watching my exclusive 80s Backtrax Ask Anything chat. Our new album is called Weather, and by the way, it makes an excellent Christmas present. So thank you very much for listening and watching. Thanks to Kid Kelly for having me on. Stay safe and stay healthy.